The alley reeked of rotting garbage and stale beer, the kind of smell that clung to your clothes for days. Maya Rodriguez pressed her back against the cold brick wall, her heart hammering so hard she thought her ribs might crack. 3 men blocked the only exit, their silhouettes backlit by the distant street lamp on Michigan Avenue. "Come on, sweetheart," the tallest one said, his voice slick with false friendliness. "We just want to talk. Maybe see what's in that pretty little purse of yours." Maya's fingers tightened around the strap of her bag. Inside was $347 in cash, tips from a double shift at Valentino's, the upscale Italian restaurant where Chicago's elite came to see and be seen. It was also every penny she had until next week, money she needed for her grandmother's medication, for the electricity bill that was 2 months overdue, for the community college tuition payment due in 5 days. "I don't have anything," she said, hating how her voice shook. "Please, just let me pass." The second man, shorter but broader, with a scar running down his left cheek, laughed. "That's what they all say. But that's a nice watch you're wearing. Real leather purse, too. You got something." Maya had cut through this alley 100 times. It was the fastest route from the restaurant to the bus stop, shaving 10 precious minutes off her commute. 10 minutes that meant the difference between 4 hours of sleep and 3 before her morning shift at the diner started. She'd always been careful, always alert, but tonight she'd been distracted, her mind replaying the moment when Richard Castellano, one of the restaurant's regular VIP customers, had deliberately knocked her tray of wine glasses, then complained loudly about her clumsiness, until the manager had docked her pay for the damages. She'd been so angry, so tired, so defeated that she hadn't noticed the men until it was too late. "Last chance," the third man said, pulling something from his jacket. In the dim light, Maya saw the glint of a blade. The bag. Now. And the watch. Maybe that necklace, too. The necklace had been her mother's. The only thing Maya had left after the car accident that took both parents when she was 16, leaving her to raise her baby sister alone. She'd die before she gave it up. "No," Maya said, her voice stronger now. "If they were going to take it, they'd have to rip it from her throat." The tall one stepped forward, and Maya's hand fumbled for her phone. But before she could reach it, before the man could reach her, a voice emerged from the deeper shadows of the alley. A voice like silk over razor blades, calm and utterly terrifying. "Wrong woman, gentlemen. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from, I love hearing from you." Everything stopped. The 3 men froze, their heads swiveling toward the darkness where a fourth figure emerged like a phantom materializing from smoke. He was tall, over 6 feet, with broad shoulders that filled out an obviously expensive charcoal suit. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, sharp cheekbones, strong jaw, a mouth that looked like it rarely smiled. But it was his eyes that made Maya's breath catch. Dark, almost black in the alley's shadows, and completely, utterly cold. He moved with the fluid grace of a predator, each step deliberate, controlled. No wasted motion. No hesitation. The streetlight caught the edge of something metallic at his hip, a gun, Maya realized with a jolt of terror. "Mr. Moretti," the tall man stammered, and Maya heard the fear in his voice. Raw, genuine fear. "We didn't know, we weren't." "You weren't thinking," the man called Moretti finished, his tone almost conversational. "Clearly. Because if you had been thinking, you would have remembered that this street, this block, this entire neighborhood belongs to me. And everything in it is under my protection." He stopped 10 feet away, hands in his pockets, posture relaxed. But Maya could feel the coiled violence in him, the barely leashed danger that radiated from every inch of his body. "She's nobody," the scarred man tried, his voice cracking. "Just some waitress. We didn't mean any disrespect." "Nobody," Moretti repeated softly, and somehow that soft voice was more terrifying than if he'd shouted. His eyes shifted to Maya, pinning her in place. Even in the darkness, she felt the weight of his gaze, the intensity of his focus. "Is that what you are, miss?" "Nobody." Maya couldn't speak. Her throat had closed up, her tongue thick and useless. She could only stare at this man who'd emerged from shadows like an avenging angel, or a devil come to collect? I asked you a question, Moretti said, his attention still on her. But I can see you're frightened. That's understandable. These three idiots have that effect on people. He turned back to the men, and his voice dropped to something arctic. On your knees. Boss, please. On your knees. The three men dropped like puppets with cut strings, their faces pale, hands raised in supplication. The tall one was actually crying, tears streaming down his cheeks. You drew a weapon, Moretti said, looking at the man with the knife. On an unarmed woman. In my territory. Without permission. Do you understand how many rules you just broke? We're sorry. I don't want apologies. I want to know if you understand. Yes, the man with the knife gasped. Yes, we understand. Good. Moretti pulled his phone from his pocket, pressed a single button. Antonio, I'm in the alley behind Valentino's. I have 3 pieces of garbage that need to be taken out. Educate them on territorial respect, then make sure they understand they're no longer welcome in Chicago. If I see any of them again, I won't be so generous. He hung up without waiting for a response. Then he finally, fully, turned to Maya. Up close, he was even more devastating. Mid-30s, with the kind of masculine beauty that belonged in Renaissance paintings, all strong lines and fierce intensity. A small scar cut through his left eyebrow, and she could see the edge of a tattoo creeping up from his collar. His eyes, those impossibly dark eyes, studied her with an interest that made her skin flush despite the cold fear still coursing through her veins. You're unharmed? He asked, and his voice had shifted again. Still authoritative, but gentler. Almost concerned. Maya managed a jerky nod. Your name. It wasn't a question. Maya found her voice, barely. Maya. Maya Rodriguez. Maya, he repeated, tasting her name like wine. I'm Dante Moretti. And you work at Valentino's. How did you? I own Valentino's. A slight smile touched his lips, transforming his face from merely handsome to absolutely arresting. I own most of the restaurants in this district. It's my business to know what happens in them. And to the people who work in them. A black SUV pulled up at the mouth of the alley, tires barely making a sound. 2 men in dark suits emerged, moving past Maya and Moretti without a word to where the 3 attackers still knelt. Mr. Moretti, one of the suited men said, his voice respectful. We'll handle this. See that you do, Antonio. And make it memorable. The 3 men were hauled to their feet and dragged toward the vehicle. As they passed, the tall one tried to look at Maya, perhaps to plead, perhaps to threaten. But Moretti moved slightly, blocking her from view with his body, and the man's eyes dropped immediately. Then they were gone, the SUV disappearing into the Chicago night, and Maya was alone with the most dangerous man she'd ever met. You're shaking, Moretti observed. He shrugged out of his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders before she could protest. The fabric was still warm from his body heat, and it smelled like expensive cologne and something else, something masculine and intoxicating that made her head spin. Adrenaline. It'll pass. Thank you, Maya managed. For helping me. Those men will never trouble you again. Or anyone else. He said it with such casual certainty, such absolute confidence, that Maya believed him completely. But I'm curious, Maya Rodriguez. Why are you cutting through dark alleys at midnight? Valentino's closes at 11. I had to help close. Inventory. She pulled his jacket tighter, trying to stop the trembling. The bus stop is on the other side of the block. This is the fastest way. The fastest way to get yourself killed, Moretti said bluntly. How often do you take this route? Every night. His jaw tightened, a muscle jumping beneath the skin. And no one has ever bothered you before. Not like this. Maya hesitated. Sometimes catcalls. Once someone followed me for a bit. But I always made it to the bus okay. Until tonight. Moretti pulled out his phone again, typed something quickly. Where do you live? Mr. Moretti, I can't. Dante, he interrupted. And that wasn't a proposition. It was a security assessment. Where do you live? Pilsen, Maya said, naming the predominantly Latino neighborhood on Chicago's south side. About 40 minutes by bus. Not anymore. As of now, you have a driver. He showed her the phone screen. He'd apparently already arranged it. Raphael will pick you up at your home and take you to work. At the end of your shift, he'll take you home. Every day. No arguments. Maya stared at him. I can't afford. Did I ask you to pay? Dante's voice was sharp. I take care of my employees, Miss Rodriguez. Especially those who've been threatened on my territory. Consider it a business expense. Raphael will be at your address at 5:45 tomorrow morning. He paused. Unless you have an earlier shift. How do you know when my shift starts? I know everything about my businesses. That slight smile again. Including the fact that you work at Valentino's 5 nights a week, Lou's Diner 6 mornings a week, and you're taking 3 classes at Harold Washington College. Criminal justice major. Impressive course load for someone working 60-hour weeks. Maya's heart started racing again, but this time from something other than fear. You've been investigating me. I investigate everyone. Dante stepped closer, and Maya had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. But I only intervene personally for people who interest me. And you, Maya Rodriguez, interest me very much. Why? The word came out breathless. Because 2 weeks ago, you stood up to Richard Castellano when he tried to touch one of the younger servers. You stepped between them, told him in very clear terms that behavior wasn't acceptable, and when he complained to management, you refused to apologize. Dante's eyes gleamed with something that might have been approval. You were written up for insubordination. Lost a week's worth of tips. But you didn't back down. You know about that. I know everything that happens in my establishments. And I know that Richard Castellano has been making inappropriate advances toward my female staff for months. Thanks to your complaint, yes, I read the incident report, I now have cause to ban him permanently. Dante reached out, and Maya froze as his fingers brushed her cheek, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch was feather-light, but it sent electricity racing through her entire body. You have courage, Maya. That's rare. Valuable. Maya's breath caught. She should step back, create distance, remember that this man was dangerous, that he'd just had 3 people dragged away to God knows what fate. But she couldn't move. Couldn't look away from those dark eyes that saw too much. I should go, she whispered. My grandmother will be worried. You live with your grandmother. And my little sister. Lucia. She's 12. Maya didn't know why she was telling him this. Maybe because he'd saved her life. Maybe because something in his eyes made her want to talk, to share, to connect. Our parents died 6 years ago. Car accident. Abuela took us in, but she's 73 now, and her arthritis. I'm all they have. Something shifted in Dante's expression. Not pity, Maya would have hated pity. But understanding. Recognition of a fellow survivor. How old were you? He asked quietly. 16. Lucia was 6. You raised your sister. I'm still raising her. Maya managed a small smile. Or trying to. She's smart, wants to be a doctor. But college is expensive, and Abuela's medications. She stopped, realizing she was rambling to a stranger. A dangerous stranger. I should really go. Raphael will drive you home tonight. He's already en route. As if summoned, another black SUV appeared at the alley entrance, this one sleeker, more expensive looking. Go. Rest. And Maya. He waited until she met his eyes again. You're under my protection now. That means something in this city. No one will touch you. No one will threaten you. You're safe. The words should have been comforting. Instead, they sent a shiver down Maya's spine that had nothing to do with cold or fear and everything to do with the way Dante Moretti was looking at her. Like she was something precious he'd discovered. Something he had no intention of letting go. "Thank you," Maya said again, because what else could she say? She started toward the SUV, then remembered. "Your jacket. Keep it. I have others." His lips curved into a real smile this time, and Maya's heart did something complicated in her chest. "Besides, it looks better on you." Maya climbed into the SUV's back seat, the leather so soft it felt like sitting on a cloud. Raphael, an older man with kind eyes and a professional demeanor, greeted her politely and pulled away from the curb. As they drove through Chicago's glittering streets, Maya pulled Dante's jacket tighter and tried to process what had just happened. She'd been attacked. Saved by a mafia boss, because that's what Dante Moretti was. She wasn't naive. She'd heard the whispers, seen the news reports that never quite stuck. The Moretti family ran Chicago's underworld with an iron fist wrapped in legitimate business ventures. And now she was under his protection. Maya looked out the window at the city lights, her fingers touching the necklace at her throat, the one she'd been ready to die defending, and wondered if she'd just been saved or if she'd walked into something far more dangerous than 3 men with a knife. By the time Raphael pulled up outside her grandmother's modest house in Pilsen, Maya had almost convinced herself it was a one-time thing. Dante Moretti had happened to be there, had intervened out of some sense of territorial pride or employee protection, and that would be the end of it. But when she climbed out of the SUV and looked back, Raphael handed her a card through the window. Cream-colored, expensive stock, with a single phone number embossed in black ink. "Mr. Moretti said you might need this," Raphael said, his expression unreadable. "He's not a man who offers his private number often, Miss Rodriguez. I'd advise you to keep it safe." Then he drove away, leaving Maya standing on the cracked sidewalk, holding a business card that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Inside the small house, her grandmother was waiting up despite the late hour, her arthritic fingers working at her rosary beads. Lucia was asleep on the couch, chemistry textbook open on her chest, having waited up for Maya and lost the battle with exhaustion. "Mi nieta," her grandmother said, standing with difficulty. "You're later than usual." "I was worried." "I'm fine, abuela." Maya kissed her grandmother's weathered cheek, breathing in the familiar scent of lavender and cooking spices. "There was just extra work tonight." Her grandmother's eyes, still sharp despite her age, studied Maya's face. Then they dropped to the expensive suit jacket draped over Maya's shoulders, the designer label visible even in the dim light of their living room. "Maya," her grandmother said softly, in Spanish. "What happened tonight?" Maya opened her mouth to lie, to protect her grandmother from worry. But the words that came out were truth. "I think my life just changed, abuela. I'm just not sure if it's for better or worse." Her grandmother was quiet for a long moment, her fingers still working the rosary. Then she cupped Maya's face in her gnarled hands, looking into her eyes with the wisdom of 7 decades. "Sometimes God sends us angels in unexpected forms, mijita. And sometimes he sends us tests. The hard part is knowing which is which." She kissed Maya's forehead. "But whatever comes, remember, you are stronger than you know. You've already survived the worst. Everything else is just another battle." Maya nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. She helped her grandmother to bed, covered Lucia with a blanket, and retreated to her own tiny room, barely big enough for a twin bed and a dresser, but it was hers. She laid Dante's jacket over her desk chair, her fingers trailing over the silk lining. Then she looked at the business card, at the number that connected her to the most dangerous man in Chicago. She should throw it away. Should pretend tonight never happened. Should go back to her normal life of exhaustion and struggle and slowly, painfully building towards something better. But when Maya finally fell asleep just before dawn, Dante's jacket still smelled like him, and his words echoed in her mind, "You're under my protection now." And deep in her chest, in a place she didn't want to examine too closely, something whispered that her grandmother was right. Her life had changed tonight. And there was no going back. Maya stood outside her house at exactly 5:43 the next morning, her breath misting in the cold Chicago air. She'd barely slept, her mind replaying the alley scene on an endless loop. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Dante Moretti emerging from the shadows like something out of a dream, or a nightmare. At 5:45 precisely, the black SUV rounded the corner. Raphael emerged, opening the back door with the same professional courtesy as the night before. "Good morning, Miss Rodriguez." "Good morning." "And please, just Maya." She climbed in, feeling desperately out of place in the luxury vehicle. She was wearing her diner uniform, a simple blue dress with a white apron, comfortable shoes meant for standing all day. Next to the SUV's leather and chrome, she felt like a child playing dress-up. "Mr. Moretti wanted me to give you this," Raphael said, handing her a phone. "New, expensive, still in its box. Your personal number will remain the same," he had it transferred. "But this phone has additional security features. And his number is programmed in." Maya stared at the device like it might bite her. "I can't accept this. With respect, Miss Rodriguez, you already have. Mr. Moretti doesn't make offers, he makes arrangements. Fighting them only wastes everyone's time." Raphael's tone was kind but firm. "He's also arranged for your grandmother's prescriptions to be transferred to Northwestern Memorial's pharmacy. No cost. And he's made some calls about your sister's college prospects." "He what?" Maya's voice came out sharp. "He has no right." "He has every right. You're under his protection now." Raphael met her eyes in the rearview mirror. "I've worked for Mr. Moretti for 12 years, Miss Rodriguez. I've seen him extend his protection to maybe 5 people in that time. It's not something he does lightly. And it's not something you refuse without consequences." "What kind of consequences?" "The kind where he assigns you a security detail whether you want one or not. The kind where every aspect of your life gets managed by his people to ensure your safety. The kind where you lose any illusion of privacy or independence." Raphael's expression softened. "Or you can accept the phone, say thank you, and let him help you the way he wants to help. Trust me, the second option is much less invasive." Maya looked at the phone in her hands. She should be angry. Should be terrified. This was control, manipulation, a powerful man inserting himself into her life without permission. But she also remembered the weight of fear in that alley. The certainty that she was about to be robbed or worse. And she remembered the absolute safety she'd felt when Dante had stepped between her and danger. "Does he do this for all his employees?" Maya asked quietly. Raphael was quiet for a moment. Then, "No, Miss Rodriguez. He doesn't." The ride to Lou's diner took 15 minutes instead of the usual hour-plus commute involving 2 buses and a lot of walking. Maya used the time to examine the new phone, discovering that Dante's number was indeed programmed in, listed simply as DM. Her finger hovered over it. She should call him, thank him properly, maybe try to establish some boundaries. But what did you say to a man like that? "Thank you for saving my life and also please stop organizing my entire existence without asking." The diner was already bustling when she arrived, the morning rush in full swing. Maya threw herself into work, letting the familiar rhythm of taking orders and pouring coffee push thoughts of Dante Moretti to the back of her mind. It worked until her break, when she checked her old phone and found 17 missed calls from the billing department at Advocate Illinois Masonic Medical Center, where her grandmother received treatment. Maya's hands shook as she dialed back, already calculating which bill she could skip this month to cover whatever crisis had emerged. "Miss Rodriguez," the billing coordinator said, her voice warm. "I'm so glad you called back. I wanted to let you know that your grandmother's outstanding balance has been paid in full. Additionally, all future treatments and medications will be covered under a special charitable program we've just enrolled her in." Maya's throat closed. "I don't understand." "It's a program for families experiencing financial hardship. Your grandmother's case was flagged by one of our donor advisory boards, and they've agreed to cover all expenses going forward. It's quite remarkable, really, we don't often see such comprehensive coverage." "Who?" Maya had to stop, swallow. "Who flagged her case?" "I'm sorry, that information is confidential. But Miss Rodriguez, this is good news. Your grandmother can focus on getting well without the stress of medical bills." Maya ended the call and immediately opened her new phone, pulling up Dante's number. Her thumb hovered over the call button for a full minute before she pressed it. He answered on the second ring. "Maya." His voice was warm, pleased. Like he'd been hoping she'd call. How was your first ride with Raphael? You paid my grandmother's medical bills. A pause. I facilitated access to a charitable program that. Don't. Maya's voice was sharper than she'd ever used with anyone, let alone someone as dangerous as Dante Moretti. Don't lie to me. You paid them. And you're covering her future treatment. Yes. No apology in his voice. No justification. Just simple acknowledgement. I did. Why? Because you were working yourself to death trying to pay them. Dante's voice dropped lower, more intimate. Because I have resources you don't, and I choose to use them. Because, Maya, I want to. You can't just. I can. I did. And I'm not taking it back. A pause. Are you angry? Maya closed her eyes, pressing her free hand against her forehead. Was she angry? She should be. This was controlling, presumptuous, a violation of her independence. But her grandmother could get treatment without the crushing stress of bills. Lucia could focus on school instead of worrying about money. Maya herself could breathe for the first time in 6 years. I don't know what I am, she admitted. That's honest. I appreciate honesty. She heard rustling, like he was moving. Have dinner with me tonight. Mr. Moretti. Dante. And it's not a request, Maya. We need to talk, establish some understanding between us. 7 o'clock. Raphael will bring you. I work until 11. Not tonight. I've already spoken to Valentino's management. You have the evening off. Paid. You can't just rearrange my schedule. I can. I did. 7 o'clock, Maya. Don't make me come collect you myself. His voice dropped to something that made heat pool in her stomach despite her frustration. Though I wouldn't mind the excuse. He hung up before she could argue further. Maya stared at her phone, torn between fury and something far more dangerous. Dante Moretti was bulldozing through her life like he owned it, making decisions without her input, spending money she could never repay. And the worst part was that a traitorous part of her didn't want him to stop. At 6:55 that evening, Maya stood in front of her tiny closet, staring at clothes that suddenly seemed impossibly inadequate. Dinner with Dante Moretti. What did you wear to dinner with a Mafia boss? Her best dress was a simple black shift she'd bought secondhand for her parents' funeral 6 years ago. It was professional, modest, and desperately out of style. But it was all she had. Lucia appeared in her doorway, her 12-year-old face creased with concern. Maya. Raphael just texted. He's downstairs. And there are boxes for you. Boxes? Maya rushed to the front door and found Raphael standing beside 3 large boxes from Neiman Marcus. Her heart sank. Mr. Moretti thought you might need options for this evening, Raphael said diplomatically. He asked me to assure you that these are a gift, not a loan. No strings attached. Except the string where I'm now in debt to him, Maya muttered. Mr. Moretti doesn't think in terms of debt, Miss Rodriguez. He thinks in terms of care. Raphael's expression was kind. But if it makes you feel better, consider this a work uniform. You're representing him tonight. He wants you comfortable and confident. Maya opened the first box and nearly gasped. Inside was a dress in deep emerald green, silk that caught the light like water. Designer label, obviously expensive, and when she held it up, she knew instinctively it would fit perfectly. Because of course Dante knew her size. He has good taste, Lucia breathed, appearing at Maya's shoulder. Maya, that's beautiful. It was. And when Maya tried it on in her cramped bedroom, it fit like it had been made for her. The color brought out the warm tones in her brown skin, and the cut was elegant without being revealing. She looked sophisticated, expensive. Like she belonged in Dante Moretti's world. The other boxes contained shoes, perfect fit, and a cashmere wrap in cream that felt like a cloud against her skin. Her grandmother appeared as Maya was finishing her minimal makeup. You look like your mother, she said softly, tears in her eyes. She would be so proud of the woman you've become, Majida. I don't know what I'm doing, abuela, Maya admitted. This man, he's dangerous. I should stay away. Is your heart telling you to stay away? Maya touched the emerald dress, thinking of dark eyes and a voice like silk. No. Then trust it. But carefully. Her grandmother took Maya's hand. Walk with your eyes open, Maya. See him clearly, the good and the bad. Don't be blinded by pretty dresses and kind gestures. But don't be so afraid that you miss something real. Raphael drove her to a restaurant Maya had never heard of, Cielo, high above the city in one of downtown's most exclusive buildings. The elevator required a key card to access the top floor, and when the doors opened, Maya stepped into understated elegance. The space was intimate, maybe 10 tables, all empty except one. Dante sat by the floor-to-ceiling windows, the Chicago skyline glittering behind him like a crown of lights. He wore a black suit with a dark gray shirt, no tie, the top button undone. Devastatingly handsome didn't begin to cover it. He stood when he saw her, and something blazed in his dark eyes. Maya. Her name on his lips sounded like a prayer. You're stunning. The dress is beautiful, she said, moving toward him on legs that felt unsteady. I wasn't talking about the dress. Dante pulled out her chair, his hand brushing her lower back as she sat. The touch, brief as it was, sent electricity racing through her. Although green is definitely your color. I knew it would be. A waiter appeared with wine, that same expensive Brunello that Maya remembered from her inspiration, and poured for both of them before disappearing like smoke. We're alone. Maya asked, looking around the empty restaurant. I rented it for the evening. I wanted privacy for this conversation. Dante settled into his chair, his attention focused entirely on her. You're angry with me. I'm confused, Maya corrected. You've upended my entire life in 24 hours. Given me things I can never repay. Taken control of my schedule, my grandmother's healthcare, probably my sister's education. Lucia has been accepted to a summer enrichment program at Northwestern, Dante interrupted. Full scholarship. It'll look excellent on her college applications. Maya set down her wine glass carefully, afraid she might throw it. See? That. You're making decisions about my family without asking me. Would you have said no to any of it? Dante leaned forward, his gaze intense. The medical bills, the phone, the safe transportation, Lucia's opportunities, if I'd asked first, would you have refused? That's not the point. It is exactly the point. His voice was firm but not harsh. Maya, you've been drowning for 6 years, trying to keep your head above water while supporting 2 other people. You're exhausted. You're working yourself into an early grave. And you're too proud to ask for help even when it's offered. You don't know me well enough to make that judgment. Don't I? Dante sat back, swirling his wine. Let me tell you what I know about Maya Rodriguez. You were 16 when your parents died. Your father's gambling debts meant there was no life insurance payout, no savings. Your grandmother took you and Lucia in, but her fixed income couldn't support 3 people, so you dropped out of high school to work. Maya's chest tightened. How did he know all this? You got your GED 2 years later, Dante continued, his voice softer now. Top scores in the state. You started at community college but had to drop out after 1 semester because your grandmother was diagnosed with arthritis. You've been working multiple jobs ever since, slowly saving, slowly building. You finally went back to school last year. Criminal justice major because you want to be a lawyer. Want to help people who can't help themselves. Tears burned behind Maya's eyes. Stop. You take care of everyone around you, Maya. Your grandmother, your sister, even the younger servers at Valentino's, I've seen you covering their tables when they're overwhelmed, splitting your tips with the kitchen staff who have families to feed. Dante's hand crossed the table, covering hers. His skin was warm, slightly rough. But who takes care of you? I take care of myself. No. His thumb stroked across her knuckles. You survive. There's a difference. And I'm offering you the chance to do more than just survive. Maya pulled her hand back, needing distance to think clearly. Why? You still haven't told me why you're doing this. You don't know me. You owe me nothing. Dante was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching her face. Then he stood, moved to the windows, his back to her. My father was a monster, he said quietly. Violent, cruel, everything you've probably heard about old-school organized crime. He ruled through fear and bloodshed. When I was 12, I watched him beat my mother so badly she lost the sight in one eye. His shoulders were rigid beneath his expensive suit. I tried to stop him. He broke 3 of my ribs and told me that's what weakness looked like. Maya's breath caught. My mother died when I was 15. Officially a car accident, but everyone knew. My father had her killed because she tried to leave him, take me with her. That's when I learned the most important lesson of my life. Dante turned back to face her, and the pain in his eyes stole her breath. Power without purpose is just destruction. And I swore that when I had power, I would use it differently. Dante. I took over the family when I was 26. My father died in his sleep, heart attack, the doctors said. Very convenient timing. His smile was cold. I spent the next 8 years cleaning up his mess. Legitimizing the businesses, cutting ties with anything criminal, building something that could last. But I never forgot what it felt like to be powerless. To watch someone hurt and be unable to help. He moved back to the table, sat down, his eyes never leaving hers. When I saw you in that alley, cornered and afraid but still defiant, still fighting, I saw my mother. I saw every person my father ever crushed under his boot. And I knew I would do whatever it took to make sure you never felt that powerless again. Maya's heart was pounding. That's not your responsibility. No, Dante agreed. It's my choice. There's a difference. He leaned forward. I'm not asking you to love me, Maya. I'm not even asking you to like me. But I am asking you to let me do this. Let me use my power and my resources to make your life easier. To give your grandmother the treatment she needs, your sister the education she deserves, and you the chance to actually live instead of just surviving. And what do you get out of it? Maya whispered. Dante's smile was soft, almost sad. The knowledge that for once, my power protected someone instead of destroying them. That's enough. The waiter reappeared with their first course, something elegant that Maya couldn't identify, too overwhelmed to focus on food. They ate in silence, the weight of Dante's confession hanging between them. Finally, Maya spoke. I can't be your charity case. You're not. Dante stopped, jaw clenching. You're something else entirely. What? I don't know yet. His honesty was disarming. But I know I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since that night at Valentino's. When Castellano knocked your tray and you got down on your knees to clean it up, your hands shaking with humiliation and rage, something in me snapped. I wanted to kill him for putting that look on your face. You banned him instead. I'm trying to be civilized. Dante's smile was sharp. But it's a near thing where you're concerned, Maya. You make me want to burn down the world for you. The intensity in his voice, in his eyes, made Maya's breath catch. This was dangerous. Not the physical danger she'd expected, but something far more treacherous. Emotional. The kind of danger that destroyed you from the inside out. I need rules, Maya said finally. Boundaries. If we're going to, whatever this is, I need some control. Name them. No more surprise gifts without asking first. No more rearranging my schedule without consultation. And definitely no more decisions about my family without my input. She met his eyes steadily. I appreciate everything you've done, Dante. More than I can say. But I'm not a doll you can dress up and move around. I'm a person with agency. Fair. Dante nodded slowly. I accept your terms. With one addition of my own. What? You accept my protection. Completely. That means the driver stays, the security on your home that you haven't noticed yet but is definitely there, and you call me immediately if anything feels wrong. Anything at all. His expression was fierce. I can give you control over many things, Maya. But your safety isn't negotiable. Maya wanted to argue. Wanted to maintain her independence completely. But she remembered the alley, the fear, the certainty that she was about to lose everything she'd fought so hard to protect. Okay, she said quietly. I accept your protection. Something in Dante's expression softened, warmed. Good. Now eat. You're too thin. You work too hard. The rest of dinner passed in easier conversation. Dante asked about her classes, her goals, her dreams. He told her about his businesses, the legitimate ones, and his plans for expanding. He was smart, driven, with a vision for building something that would last beyond his lifetime. He was also funny, which surprised Maya. Dry humor that snuck up on you, making her laugh before she realized it. By the time dessert arrived, tiramisu that melted on Maya's tongue, she'd almost forgotten to be nervous. I want to see you again, Dante said as Raphael pulled up outside her grandmother's house hours later. Not for business. Not for protection. Just to see you. Maya looked at him in the dim light of the SUV's interior. This beautiful, dangerous, complicated man who'd inserted himself into her life like a force of nature. Like a date? She asked. Exactly like a date. His hand found hers, threading their fingers together. Say yes, Maya. She should say no. Should maintain distance, protect herself, remember all the reasons this was a terrible idea. Instead, she said, yes. Dante's smile was radiant, transforming his face from merely handsome to absolutely devastating. He lifted her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles with old-world courtesy that made her heart flip. Saturday, he said. I'll pick you up at 6. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. She climbed out of the SUV and walked to her front door on unsteady legs, feeling Dante's eyes on her until she was safely inside. Lucia was waiting up, practically bouncing with excitement. Well? How was it? Is he nice? Are you going to see him again? Yes to all of it, Maya admitted, sinking onto the couch. Lucia, I think I'm in trouble. Good trouble or bad trouble? Maya thought of dark eyes and careful hands, of a man who'd survived his own hell and wanted to save her from hers. I honestly don't know yet. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dante, sleep well, mi tesoro. Dream of me. Maya's heart did something complicated in her chest. Mi tesoro. My treasure. She was definitely in trouble. But as she climbed into bed that night, wearing one of her old t-shirts but wrapped in the memory of Dante's cologne and his touch, Maya couldn't bring herself to regret it. For the first time in 6 years, someone was taking care of her. And God help her, it felt like coming home. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of increasingly intense moments that left Maya breathless and confused about where her life was heading. True to his word, Dante had taken her on a proper date that Saturday, dinner at an exclusive rooftop restaurant, followed by a walk along the Chicago River where they talked until midnight about everything and nothing. He was careful with her. Gentle. His touches were always appropriate, his behavior the model of old-fashioned courtship. But Maya could feel the restraint in him, the banked fire that blazed in his eyes every time he looked at her. The way his jaw would tighten when another man looked at her too long. The possessive hand at her lower back that said mine without words. It should have frightened her. Instead, it made her feel safe. Cherished. Like she was the most precious thing in his world. But the universe had other plans. Maya was closing at Valentino's on a Tuesday night, later than usual because they'd had a private party that ran long. Raphael was waiting outside as always, but Maya had told him she needed 15 more minutes to help the kitchen staff finish cleanup. She was in the walk-in freezer, counting inventory, when she heard voices in the kitchen. Male voices, unfamiliar, speaking in harsh Italian. Maya's blood ran cold. She quietly pulled out her phone, texting Dante with shaking fingers, something's wrong at Valentino's. Strange men in kitchen. His response was immediate, get out now. Raphael is coming in. But before Maya could move, the freezer door swung open. 3 men stood there, all armed, all wearing expressions that made her stomach drop. Maya Rodriguez, the leader said, his accent thick. "You're coming with us." "I don't think so." Maya's voice was steadier than she felt. She'd taken Dante's self-defense lesson seriously over the past 2 weeks, remembered his instructions. Stay calm. Look for exits. Create opportunities. This restaurant is under Dante Moretti's protection. You touch me, and you're dead men. Moretti is exactly why we're here. The man stepped closer, and Maya saw the cold calculation in his eyes. Salvatore Russo sends his regards. He's very interested in meeting the woman who's captured Dante's attention so completely. Russo. Maya had heard that name whispered in connection with organized crime, a rival family from the old days. One of the few groups that still operated the way Dante's father had, with violence and intimidation. "Dante will kill you," Maya said flatly. "Perhaps. But first, he'll negotiate. And that's all we need." Dante Moretti distracted, off balance, making emotional decisions instead of strategic ones. The man pulled out a syringe. "This will be easier if you don't fight." Maya grabbed the nearest weapon, a frozen beef tenderloin, and swung it with all her strength. The satisfying crack of impact, the man's curse as he stumbled back, gave her the second she needed. She bolted from the freezer, but 2 more men were blocking the kitchen exit. Behind her, she heard the first man recovering, shouting orders in Italian. Maya did the only thing she could think of, she ran for the dining room, hitting the fire alarm as she passed it. The shrieking siren filled the restaurant, lights flashing. She made it to the front entrance just as Raphael burst through, gun drawn. Behind him, 4 more of Dante's men materialized from seemingly nowhere. "Miss Rodriguez, down!" Raphael commanded. Maya dropped to the floor, covering her head as gunfire erupted. The sound was deafening, nothing like the movies. Glass shattered. Wood splintered. Someone screamed, one of the Russians. Or one of Dante's men. Then there were hands on her, pulling her up, and Maya found herself face to face with Raphael, his expression grim but relieved. "Are you hurt?" "No. No, I'm fine." Maya's ears were ringing. "Raphael," they said. "I know what they said." Raphael was already pulling her toward the door, toward safety. "Mr. Moretti is en route. We need to get you to the safe house." The safe house turned out to be a penthouse apartment in a high-security building downtown. Maya was hustled inside by Raphael and 2 other guards, all of them moving with military precision. The space was beautiful, modern, expensive, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city. But Maya barely noticed. She sank onto the leather couch, her hands shaking as adrenaline finally hit her system. "Miss Rodriguez." Raphael knelt before her, his voice gentle. "You did very well. Your training saved your life. Mr. Moretti will be here soon." "Is everyone okay?" "The kitchen staff. All safe. They were locked in the office when the Russians arrived. You were the only target." Raphael's expression darkened. This was a coordinated hit. They've been watching, waiting for an opportunity. Maya wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly freezing despite the apartment's warmth. "They want to use me against him." "Yes. Then maybe I should leave. Go somewhere Dante can't find me, so they can't use me. That would destroy him." The voice came from the doorway, deep and rough with emotion. Maya's head snapped up. Dante stood there, his suit jacket gone, his shirt partially unbuttoned, and his knuckles bloody. But it was his eyes that made her breath catch, wild, almost feral with rage and fear. "Everyone out," Dante commanded, never looking away from Maya. Raphael and the others disappeared immediately, the door clicking shut behind them. For a long moment, Dante and Maya just stared at each other across the space. Then he moved, crossing the distance in 3 strides and dropping to his knees in front of her. His hands came up to cup her face, his touch desperate, trembling. "Are you hurt? Did they touch you?" "Maya, tell me." "I'm fine." She covered his hands with hers, feeling the slight stickiness of blood, someone else's blood. Dante, I'm okay. I promise. A sound escaped him, something between a sob and a growl. Then he pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. His face buried in her neck, his whole body shaking. When Raphael called, Dante said, his voice muffled against her skin. When he said Russians had entered the restaurant, that you were in danger, Maya, I've never been so terrified in my entire life. Maya's arms came around him, holding him just as tightly. You came for me. Always. He pulled back enough to look at her, his dark eyes blazing. I will always come for you. No matter what. No matter where. You're mine, Maya. Mine to protect. Mine to, he stopped, jaw clenching. Yours to what? Maya whispered. Mine to love. The words were torn from him, raw and honest. I'm in love with you, Maya Rodriguez. Completely, irrevocably, probably foolishly. I know it's too fast. I know I have no right. But I can't, I won't, pretend anymore. Maya's heart stopped. Then started again, racing. Dante. You don't have to say it back. He was already pulling away, creating distance. I know this is overwhelming. I know I'm overwhelming. But you deserve the truth, and the truth is that you've become the most important thing in my world. More important than my businesses, my reputation, my empire. More important than anything. They're going to keep coming after me, Maya said, her voice small. As long as I'm connected to you, I'm a target. Yes. Dante stood, moved to the windows, his hands shoved in his pockets. The city lights reflected in the glass, making him look like a shadow himself. Which is why I'm giving you a choice. The only fair choice I can offer. Maya's chest tightened. What choice? Leave. Tonight. I have resources, I can set you up anywhere in the world. New identity, money, security. You, your grandmother, Lucia, all of you, completely safe and completely free of me. His voice was carefully controlled, but Maya heard the pain beneath it. Or stay. Marry me. Become my wife, not just the woman I'm protecting but my partner, my equal. Let me put every resource I have into keeping you safe. Let me stand between you and anyone who would dare hurt you. Maya stood on shaking legs. You're proposing. I'm offering you a life sentence with me. Dante turned to face her, and the vulnerability in his expression broke her heart. I won't lie to you, Maya. Marrying me means danger. It means enemies, threats, a world you never asked to be part of. But it also means you'll never be alone again. Never have to struggle. Never have to choose between your dreams and survival. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. He crossed back to her, pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a ring that made Maya gasp, a stunning emerald surrounded by diamonds, the green stone the exact shade of the dress he'd bought her. I had this made the day after our first date, Dante said quietly. Because I already knew. I've known since that night in the alley that you were going to change my life. I just didn't know if you'd let me change yours. Tears streamed down Maya's face. This is insane. We've known each other 2 weeks. I know. You're asking me to marry you, to enter a world I don't understand, to accept a lifetime of danger. I know. And I don't even know if I love you yet. The lie tasted bitter on her tongue. Dante's smile was sad, knowing. Yes, you do. You're just afraid to admit it. Afraid that if you say it out loud, if you commit to this, you'll lose control of your carefully ordered life. You'll have to trust someone else to take care of you. And trust is the hardest thing you've ever had to give. He was right. God, he was right. Maya had been alone, carrying the weight of the world, for so long that the idea of sharing that burden felt impossible. Terrifying. But also, liberating. If I say yes, Maya whispered. If I marry you, I need to know I'm not just another possession. Not something you own and protect like property. I need to be your partner. Your equal. Done. Dante took her hand, his thumb stroking over her knuckles. Maya, I don't want a doll or a trophy. I want you. Your strength, your stubbornness, your fire. I want to come home to someone who challenges me, who calls me on my bullshit, who makes me want to be better than I am. And I want to build something real with you, not just safety, but a life. A family. A future. Maya looked at the ring, then at Dante's face. At the hope and fear and love blazing in his dark eyes. This man who'd saved her, protected her, seen past the exhausted waitress to the woman underneath. She thought about her grandmother's words, sometimes God sends us angels in unexpected forms. She thought about 6 years of struggle, of barely surviving, of putting everyone else first while her own dreams withered. She thought about the feel of Dante's arms around her, the safety she felt in his presence, the way he made her feel like she could finally breathe. Yes, Maya said, and watched his whole face transform with joy. Yes, I'll marry you. But Dante, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me that when I'm wrong, you'll tell me. When I'm being stupid or reckless, you'll call me on it. Don't put me on a pedestal. Don't treat me like I'm fragile. Love me, protect me, but also challenge me. Make me better the way I want to make you better. Dante slid the ring onto her finger, then lifted her hand to his lips. I promise. On everything I am, everything I have, I promise. Then he kissed her, and it was nothing like their previous careful kisses. This was claiming, consuming, desperate. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer. Maya melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, kissing him back with all the pent-up emotion of the past 2 weeks. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. We're getting married tomorrow. Tomorrow. Maya pulled back slightly. Dante, that's too fast, I know. But Maya, the Russians made their move tonight. That means Salvatore Russo knows about you, knows what you mean to me. Every day we wait is another day you're vulnerable. As my fiancé, you have some protection. As my wife, you're untouchable. It sends a message, she's not just under my protection, she's family. Russo code says family is sacred. Even for a man like Salvatore Russo. Especially for a man like him. He's old school. He respects the old ways, including the rules about family. Dante cupped her face. I know it's fast. I know it's not the wedding you probably dreamed about. But I need you safe, Maya. I need you legally, permanently bound to me in a way that makes every person in this city understand that harming you means going to war with me. Maya thought about the men in the restaurant, the syringe, the cold calculation in their eyes. She thought about Lucia and her grandmother, about the targets they became simply by being connected to her. Okay, she said. Tomorrow. But I want my family there. And I want it to mean something, not just be a legal protection. It will mean everything. Dante's voice was fierce. You're getting all of me, Maya. My name, my protection, my heart. Everything I am is yours. They spent that night in the safe house, Dante refusing to let her out of his sight. He made calls in rapid Italian while Maya sat curled on the couch, her new ring catching the light. It felt heavy on her finger. Not physically, but emotionally. The weight of commitment, of a future she'd never imagined. Raphael brought food, Maya's favorite Thai takeout, which made her wonder when Dante had learned that detail, and then discreetly disappeared. Eat, Dante commanded, settling beside her with his own container. You barely touched dinner. I was busy being kidnapped, Maya pointed out, but she took the food. The familiar flavors grounded her, made everything feel slightly more real and less like a fever dream. Tell me what happened, Dante said quietly. Every detail. So Maya did. The voices in the kitchen, the men in the freezer, the frozen beef tenderloin that had been her weapon. Dante's expression grew darker with every word, a muscle jumping in his jaw. You hit one of them with a frozen tenderloin, he said when she finished. There was a note of pride in his voice alongside the fury. That's my girl. Your girl just made things worse, didn't she? By fighting back, by setting off the alarm. You saved your own life. Dante set down his food, turned to face her fully. Maya, if you'd let them take you, if you'd gotten in that car. I would have gotten you back eventually, but what they would have done to you in the meantime, his hands clenched into fists. You fought. You were smart. You gave Raphael time to get to you. That's not making things worse. That's surviving. Like you taught me. Like you already knew how to do. I just gave you tools. He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. You've been fighting your whole life, mi tesoro. I'm just grateful you're willing to let me fight beside you now. They finished eating in comfortable silence, the kind that comes when two people are learning each other's rhythms. Afterward, Dante showed her to the bedroom, a massive space with a California king bed and an ensuite bathroom that was bigger than Maya's childhood bedroom. This is yours, he said. I'll take the couch. Dante, it's your safe house. And you're my fiancé. Soon to be my wife. Which means your comfort comes before mine. He kissed her forehead, lingering. Sleep, Maya. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. But Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in the enormous bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. In less than 24 hours, she would be Maya Moretti. Wife to one of the most powerful men in Chicago. Protected, provided for, and probably pregnant within the year if Dante had anything to say about it. She'd seen the way he looked at children, the longing in his eyes when they passed families in the park. It should terrify her. Instead, it felt like destiny. Around 2 a.m., Maya gave up on sleep and padded out to the living room. Dante was standing at the windows, shirtless, his back to her. In the dim light, she could see the full extent of his tattoos, intricate designs that covered his shoulders and back, telling stories in ink and art. Can't sleep either? She asked softly. He turned, and the look on his face, raw, hungry, barely controlled, made her breath catch. I keep seeing you in that freezer. Keep imagining all the ways tonight could have gone differently. Maya crossed to him, drawn by something she couldn't name. But it didn't. I'm here. I'm safe. Because of luck. Because Raphael was close. Because you were smart and brave and, Dante's voice cracked. Maya, when I think about losing you. You won't. She reached up, cupped his face. You won't lose me, Dante. I'm choosing this. Choosing you. All of it. Even knowing what it means. The danger, the complications, the fact that my world will never be completely safe. Even knowing all of that. Maya pulled him down until their foreheads touched. Because the alternative is going back to just surviving. And I don't want to just survive anymore. I want to live. And I want to live with you. Dante's control snapped. He kissed her with a desperation that stole her breath, his hands everywhere at once, her face, her hair, her waist. Maya kissed him back just as desperately, all the fear and adrenaline and emotion of the night channeling into this moment. Maya, he groaned against her lips. We should wait. Until after the wedding. Why? She pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. Because it's proper. Traditional. Dante, we're getting married in a courthouse tomorrow because of death threats. I think we're past traditional. Because once I have you, his voice was rough, his eyes blazing. Once I make you mine completely, there's no going back. I'll never let you go. Never. Good. Maya took his hand, placed it over her racing heart. Because I don't want to go anywhere. Dante swept her into his arms, carrying her back to the bedroom. He laid her on the bed with a reverence that made tears spring to her eyes, then stood back, just looking at her. You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, he said quietly. And tomorrow, you'll be my wife. My partner. My everything. I already am, Maya whispered. What happened next was tender and consuming all at once. Dante loved her like she was precious, breakable, and utterly essential to his survival. And Maya gave herself to him completely, all her fear, all her hope, all her carefully guarded heart. Afterward, as they lay tangled together in the darkness, Dante's fingers traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. "What are you thinking?" Maya asked. "That I'm the luckiest man alive." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "That I don't deserve you, but I'm selfish enough not to care." "You deserve happiness," Maya said firmly. "You deserve someone who sees past the reputation to the man underneath. Someone who knows you're not your father." Dante was quiet for a long moment. "Then, my father would have taken you without asking. Would have seen you as property, a possession to own and control. But Maya, I need you to know, you can still walk away. Tonight, tomorrow morning, 10 years from now. If you ever want out, I'll let you go. It'll kill me, but I'll do it. Because loving you means wanting you to be happy, even if that happiness doesn't include me." Maya turned in his arms, meeting his eyes in the darkness. "I'm not going anywhere. And you need to accept that, Dante. Stop waiting for me to realize I've made a mistake. Stop expecting me to leave. I'm here. I'm staying. And tomorrow, I'm going to stand in front of whoever will marry us and promise you forever." Something in Dante's expression cracked, vulnerability flooding through. "I love you," he said, his voice raw. "God, Maya, I love you so much it terrifies me." "I love you too," Maya whispered, saying it out loud for the first time. "I think I have since that night in the alley. When you stepped out of the shadows and I just knew, that my life would never be the same." Dante kissed her again, slower this time, deeper. And as Maya drifted off to sleep in his arms, she felt something she hadn't felt in 6 years. Peace. Safety. Home. The wedding took place at noon the next day in the private chapel of a cathedral on the north side. Despite the rushed timeline, Dante had somehow arranged everything, a beautiful space, flowers, even a small gathering of people. Maya wore a simple white dress that had appeared at the safe house that morning, along with a team of stylists who'd made her look like a princess. Lucia stood beside her as maid of honor, her eyes shining with happy tears. Her grandmother sat in the front row, rosary in hand, smiling through her own tears. Dante waited at the altar in a black suit that made him look like every romantic fantasy Maya had ever had. Raphael stood beside him as best man, along with Antonio and a few other men from Dante's inner circle. As Maya walked down the aisle, Dante's eyes never left her face. When she reached him, he took her hands, and she felt his trembling slightly. The ceremony was brief, traditional, conducted by a priest who'd known Dante's family for generations. When it came time for vows, Dante went first. "Maya," he said, his voice carrying through the small chapel. 2 weeks ago, you were a stranger. Today, you're my whole world. I promise to protect you, cherish you, and love you for every day of my life. I promise to be worthy of the gift you've given me, your trust, your heart, your future. I promise to build a life with you that honors both our pasts while creating something new. Something better. And I promise that I will never, ever let anyone hurt you again." Maya's turn. She looked up at this man who'd saved her, claimed her, loved her, and found the words coming easily. "Dante, you've given me things I never thought I'd have, safety, security, the freedom to dream again. But more than that, you've seen me. Really seen me. Not just the struggling waitress or the exhausted student, but the woman I am underneath. The woman I want to be. And I promise to see you just as clearly. To love not just the powerful boss but the man who still grieves his mother, who's building something better than what he inherited, who loves fiercely and protects completely. I promise to stand beside you, to challenge you, to be your partner in everything. For better or worse, in danger and in peace, I'm yours. Completely." When the priest pronounced them husband and wife, Dante kissed her like he was claiming her soul. The small gathering applauded, and Maya heard Lucia's delighted laugh. The reception was held at Cielo, the same restaurant where they'd had their first date. Dante had arranged for Maya's grandmother to be comfortable, Lucia to have her favorite foods, and for every detail to be perfect. As they danced their first dance, Maya looked up at her new husband. "You know this is insane, right? We got married to protect me from your enemies." "We got married," Dante corrected, pulling her closer. Because I love you. The protection is just a bonus. And Maya. Now that you're my wife, now that you wear my ring and my name, his eyes blazed. Anyone who even thinks about hurting you will learn exactly why the Moretti family is still feared in this city. Dante. Salvatore Russo made a mistake last night. He thought you were my weakness. But he's wrong. Dante's hand tightened at her waist. You're my strength. And he's about to find out the difference. 2 days after the wedding, Dante called a meeting of the city's major players, both legitimate businessmen and those with less legal operations. The meeting took place in a neutral location, witnessed by representatives from multiple families. Maya watched from a secure location via video feed as Dante made his position clear. Some of you know my wife, Maya Moretti, Dante said, his voice carrying absolute authority through the room. Some of you have heard about the attempt on her life 2 nights ago. Let me make something crystal clear, my wife is off limits. Completely. Permanently. Anyone who harms her, threatens her, or even looks at her wrong answers to me directly. Salvatore Russo, an older man with cold eyes, spoke up. Moretti, you're getting emotional over a woman. That's weakness. No. Dante's smile was predatory. That's drawing a line. You want to come after me? Fine. Challenge my businesses, my territory, my operations. But leave my family out of it. That's the rule, Russo. Even in the old days, even when my father ran things, family was sacred. Your father took what he wanted. My father is dead. Dante's voice dropped to something lethal. And his way of doing things died with him. I've built something different, something better. Legitimate businesses, clean operations, respect instead of fear. But don't mistake civilization for weakness. I'm still my father's son. And if you push me, if you threaten what's mine, you'll discover that I'm capable of far worse than he ever was. The room was silent. Here's my offer, Dante continued. Peace. Cooperation. We divide territory fairly, operate our businesses without interference, and we all profit. Or, he leaned forward. Or we go to war. And Russo, I promise you, in a war between us, you lose. I have resources, connections, and legitimate power you can't touch. I've spent 8 years building an empire that doesn't rely on violence and intimidation. But I remember how to use both. Russo studied Dante for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. You've made your point. Your wife is off limits. But Moretti, don't think this means I'm afraid of you. Think whatever you want, Dante said dismissively. As long as you leave my family alone. When Dante returned to the penthouse where Maya waited, he pulled her into his arms immediately. It's done, he said against her hair. Russo backed down. You're safe. For now, Maya said quietly. But Dante, what about the next threat? The next enemy? Will you have to make a deal every time? No. He pulled back to look at her. Because now they understand. You're not just my wife, you're my line in the sand. Cross it, and they deal with all of me. Not the businessman trying to go legitimate, but the man who will burn their world to ash to protect what he loves. Maya should have been frightened by the cold certainty in his voice. Instead, she felt safe. Over the next months, Maya discovered what it meant to be Dante Moretti's wife. She continued her classes. Dante had arranged for her to transfer to Northwestern with full scholarship, and found that studying law became easier when she wasn't exhausted from working 3 jobs. Lucia flourished at her enrichment program. Her grandmother's health improved dramatically with consistent treatment and reduced stress. And Maya found herself falling more in love with her husband every day. He was demanding but fair. Protective but not controlling. He respected her opinions, asked for her input on business decisions, and treated her like an equal partner in everything. He was also incredibly romantic. Flowers appeared without reason. Love notes in Italian tucked into her textbooks. Surprise dates that ranged from elegant dinners to simple picnics in the park. The first time Maya told Dante she wanted to intern at the public defender's office, he'd surprised her. Perfect, he'd said. You'll be excellent at it. You're not worried about conflict of interest. About me working with people who might be charged with crimes related to your world. Me tesoro, I told you, my businesses are legitimate. And if you encounter anything illegal connected to me, I'd want you to prosecute it. That's who you are. That's why I love you. 6 months into their marriage, Maya came home from her internship to find Dante in his office, staring at papers with an expression she'd never seen before. What's wrong? She asked immediately. He looked up, and she saw tears in his eyes. My mother's birthday was today. I'd almost forgotten. Maya's heart clenched. She'd learned bits and pieces about Dante's mother over the months, a gentle woman who tried to protect her son from his father's violence. Who died trying to escape. Tell me about her, Maya said, sitting beside him. Dante did. He talked for hours, sharing memories he'd kept locked away. His mother's laugh, her love of gardening, the way she'd sing him lullabies in Italian. And Maya listened, held him, let him grieve properly for the first time in 20 years. She would have loved you, Dante said finally, his voice rough. She always said I needed someone strong enough to stand up to me. Someone who'd see past the anger to the heart underneath. I do see it, Maya assured him. I see you, Dante. All of you. And I love every part. That night, they made love with a tenderness that brought tears to both their eyes. And afterward, as Maya lay in her husband's arms, she thought about the strange journey that had brought her here. From a frightened waitress in an alley to the wife of Chicago's most powerful man. From barely surviving to actually living. From loneliness to love. It hadn't been easy. There were still threats, still enemies lurking in the shadows. Maya had learned to live with security details, to recognize suspicious behavior, to trust her instincts. She'd learned that loving Dante meant accepting danger as part of their reality. But she'd also learned that some things were worth fighting for. That love could be both fierce and gentle. That strength came in many forms, including the strength to accept help, to trust, to let someone else carry part of the weight. 2 years after that night in the alley, Maya stood in the nursery of their new home, not the penthouse but a brownstone in Lincoln Park with a garden and room for family. She held her 3-month-old son, Marco, named for Dante's mother's father. Dante appeared in the doorway, still in his suit from work. His face softened when he saw them. There are my 2 favorite people, he said, crossing to kiss first Maya, then the baby's forehead. 3 favorite people, Maya corrected, placing her hand on her stomach where their second child was already growing. Dante's eyes widened. You're pregnant. Again. Surprise. Maya laughed at his expression, pure joy mixed with terror. I know we said we'd wait, but apparently our son wanted a sibling close in age. Dante dropped to his knees in front of her, pressing his ear to her stomach like he could hear the baby already. Another miracle, he whispered. You say that like you're surprised, Maya teased, running her fingers through his hair. Dante, you gave me miracles. Every single day. A family, a home, a life worth living. This, she gestured at their son, at her stomach, at the beautiful room Dante had designed himself. This is just the next chapter. The best chapter, Dante said, standing and pulling her into his arms carefully, mindful of the baby between them. Maya, do you remember what you said to me that night? When I asked you to marry me. I said a lot of things. You said you didn't want to just survive anymore. You wanted to live. He cupped her face, his dark eyes intense. Did I keep that promise? Are you living, mi tesoro? Are you happy? Dante Moretti, Maya said, her voice thick with emotion. I am happier than I ever thought possible. You didn't just help me survive, you taught me how to thrive. You gave me back my dreams and then gave me new ones I never knew to wish for. So yes, you kept your promise. Every single day, you keep it. Dante kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. Their son gurgled between them, and they both laughed. Our life is messy, Maya said. Complicated. Sometimes dangerous. But always real, Dante finished. Always honest. Always ours. Later that night, after Marco was asleep and they'd retreated to their own room, Maya and Dante stood at the window, looking out at Chicago's glittering skyline. "Do you ever regret it?" Maya asked quietly. "Choosing me over a simpler life? A wife from your world who understood the rules?" "Never." Dante's answer was immediate, fierce. "Maya, you are my world. Everything else is just details." He turned her to face him. "And you? Do you regret saying yes to a dangerous man with a complicated past?" Maya thought about the frightened girl in that alley, cornered and alone. She thought about the woman she'd become, educated, confident, protected, loved. She thought about the family they'd built, the life they were creating together. "Not for a single second," she said. "You saved my life that night, Dante. But more than that, you gave me a life worth saving." They stood together in the darkness, the city spread before them like a promise. Two people who'd found each other in the shadows and built something bright enough to chase away any darkness. Maya Rodriguez, now Maya Moretti, had learned that sometimes the most dangerous choice was the one that saved you. That love could be both shelter and storm. That the right person would see past your struggles to your strength, past your fears to your courage, past your survival to your soul. And Dante Moretti had learned that power meant nothing without someone to share it with. That love wasn't weakness but the greatest strength of all. That the bravest thing he'd ever done wasn't taking over the family or building an empire, it was opening his heart to a woman who'd seen his darkness and loved him anyway. They'd found each other in an alley, in violence and fear. But they'd built something beautiful from those harsh beginnings. A marriage. A family. A love that could weather any storm. And as Chicago sparkled below them, full of possibility and promise, they both knew the truth. This was just the beginning. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.